Hey folks, it's Fed here at Azalea Studios in Nashville. I wanted to set up a little bit of a context for this particular video here. It was never intended to be anything for the public consumption or anything like that, but I was having a conversation, what I call a get acquainted call, with a client of mine, Bill Emery, out in Colorado Springs. And we were just kind of shooting the breeze about various topics to do with the music industry and how to get a career in the music industry and age related stuff and getting your music into film and TV and what have you. And we talked for maybe an hour, hour and a half, something like that. And by the time I got to the end of it, I thought, wow, there's a whole kind of string of stuff here that I've shared with Bill based on my almost 40 years of experience in the industry. And I thought maybe we could share it with other folks. And Bill was very gracious to say, yeah, he's fine with that. So that's how this video came about. So it's just there for you to hear some random thoughts from me about the music business and what have you. And if you like what you're getting here, feel free to subscribe, hit that notification button, make a comment, whatever the case may be. And I look forward to seeing you in some more future videos. Take care.
As far as where you'd like to take that stuff in the film and TV world, then, there are two different approaches. Well, there are multiple approaches, but two very common approaches that people take is one to, record a bunch of stuff and make a catalog out of it and then go find a home for it. Other people take a little bit more of a demand-based approach, which is, okay, what is the market looking for right now? And I will then produce, record, mix, remix, skew my music according to that, and go after, some subset of the market or something like that. So traditionally, what people would say is the first approach, which is to build a catalog and then find a home for it, is a harder sell and a longer sales cycle. It's not better or worse. It's just that approach has its own, inherent delays, limitations, whatever. The right to the market approach is you may get more placements more quickly, but it's nonstop because the market is constantly changing. And you can end up spinning your tail, chasing your tail and burning out, which I see a lot of people do. They may be really, really good at three or four, contemporary genres or whatever, and they spend just a ton of time immersed in that world. And they're constantly putting out stuff, most of which doesn't, get accepted right away unless they're way along in their production chops. And they just end up giving up after a year or two, which is, that's one of the downsides of chasing the market. And the other one being that, you might have a catalog of 50 songs that 3 years from now, nobody will be interested in. So, I tend to lean towards the first one with my clients, as long as they're okay, knowing that, they're not going to get 100 taxi listings in a particular time frame. They might get 6. And if they're a really good fit for those 6, then you're golden and everything's fine. But it's only going to come along so often that people want vintagely recorded stuff, or traditional jazz or whatever. And if, as long as you're in a place in your music career, in your life, where that's okay with you, then you're rock solid and you can proceed down that path quite successfully. I like, for example, the notion of a 5-year plan. A lot of younger kids I talk to, 5 years is a lifetime to them, and they just can't even imagine 5 months ahead, much less 5 years. Old guys like us are willing to be patient, and know that if we do a certain number of things and it's all about building something, then it'll eventually come back to us. But we don't expect results in 5 minutes. So it's interesting, kind of, and both approaches have their merit. I mean, it's not like one approach has worked better over another.
Right.
I was talking to my wife this week. I've been watching that Paul McCartney 3-2-1 special on Netflix, which is really amazing. Kind of going into the, the very, very personal perspective on all the music he's done over the decades. The Beatles never made it out of their 20s before they broke up. So all of their output was when they were young and eager and, open and all the other things. You don't get a lot of people who, reach worldwide stardom, starting in their 60s. Right. So, again, that's an argument for youth and all the other stuff. You've got so many things firing in my brain here. The one is the whole notion about, you have to do it. And I think most of the people that we work with, that's a common thing. It's like it feeds their soul. It's not just because it's enjoyable or whatever. It goes a lot deeper than that. I'm one of those people, I have to be involved in music somehow. I don't necessarily need to be creating or performing it myself. I'm just as happy, if not happier, sometimes, bringing other people's visions to fruition and what have you. But I have to be around it. I have to be involved in it. And I remember my mom telling me when I was a teenager, and she was always the champion for me of my music. And I remember her saying to me, it was, we got into a discussion about girlfriends and stuff like that. And she said, the one thing you have to remember in your life is to find somebody who recognizes the significance of music to your life. As far as, a wife and everything else. And I ended up marrying a chick singer. So that worked out great. We're still together, after 30 plus years. It's so critical. It's like, you can't explain it to somebody. They either got to either get it or be okay with it, or it's not going to work out. The other thing you're describing, this whole phenomenon of getting away from music. I don't know how much of you've looked on our website and stuff, but literally one of the things we talk about in our interview or whatever section it's in is this whole notion of a second timer. We know so many people who are, I'll say 50 and above, right around in that age range, who have put aside their music or lowered the priority of music, let's say, in their life because of job, career, raising kids, unsupportive partners, whatever the case may be, but they put it on the back burner. And what we find fascinating about what we call second timers is when they come back to their music for the second time, they have all that life experience that they've gained since they let it go, but the same level of enthusiasm, if not more. The energy is there. It's like, from a musical perspective, it's like they're young again. And I see this pattern over and over and over again with second timers. And quite frankly, that's our audience. That's who Nancy and I work with, because they've got their perspective right. When you reach this point in your life where you come back to music and you have a value of it that's different from what you did before. You're not trying to get famous. You're not trying to make, get rich quick scheme. You're not trying to, whatever the case may be. You just look at it from such a different perspective. And what I find is working with people like that, most of the BS just tends to get swept away. And people like us are way more focused on what we're doing and not distracted by all the extraneous stuff that really doesn't matter in the moment. And I'm talking about whether we're writing it, we're in the studio recording, we're doing a gig, whatever the case may be. So I'm just, what a lot of what you're telling me is triggering all these thoughts in my head. So you're not alone. You are very, very much, there's an entire generation of us right now. We're the largest segment of the population, the baby boomers, which also means we have the largest potential audience, ironically enough, more than the 20 somethings and everything else do. I know it's baby steps and you might not be focusing a lot on the pitching and the publishing end of things right now, but let me plant a little seed for you to kind of remember as when it's appropriate to get into it. One of the techniques that is very, very effective as a self-published person is to go out and find artists and bands, particularly bands, who need music. And usually they know they do, but they don't know how to go find songs. I learned this technique from a guy named Bob Della Posta here in Nashville. He's a hit songwriter. He worked with the Nashville Songwriters Association for many, many years as one of their song screeners and what have you. But he has a lot of experience in the publishing business. He owns a publishing company. He's done thousands of songs, either single song publishing deals or other publishing arrangements with people. But the technique he used to get going was he would go on the internet and he would literally type in something like Romanian bands looking for rockabilly songs, that specific. And what he was trying to do was get down to specific people that he could get in touch with who could make a decision about whether his music was appropriate for them or not. And so he'd go, let's say he typed in Romanian bands looking for rockabilly songs, and he'd find a website of a band, Mitchki Mitchki, Romanian band, Rockabilly Stars, whatever. And he'd go to their website and he would look at what their current news was, let's say, or their gigs or whatever, or if they had were gonna release an album or had just released one. He'd be able to find out a little bit about them and kind of where they're coming from, but also where they are in the production cycle. So if they say, hey, we're just starting to get together to record our next album, then he knew that they were ripe for looking for songs. And so it's very, very important to qualify the people in two ways. First, would they be someone who would be interested in what he had to offer? And two, is it the right time for them? And so then he would email them, because there's always some kind of a contact form or something on their website. And he goes, hey, my name's Bob Della Posta. I'm with My Three Sons Music in Nashville. I represent a number of writers, or myself, depending on who's doing it, who write rockabilly songs. And I see that you've just released such and such, or you're going to release a new one. Blah. So he obviously shows them he's done his homework too, and he wasn't just some random spammer, And he literally has gotten hundreds of song contracts that way with bands and artists. And a lot of times it's a simple thing where they pay a flat fee up front, anything from, $50 to $250 to $1,000, whatever the particular arrangement is he makes with them, and they add up. You do a couple hundred of those and you're getting some real legitimate music, but you're getting it from points afar on the planet that don't have anything to do with traditional publisher or even BMI or ASCAP or any of that stuff. And he built a publishing empire on that. So just for you as a self-published guy who's dipping your toe in that water, remember that process when you get there.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. If you typed in right now, Romanian rockabilly bands, I guarantee you some listing is going to come up. The weirder or more skewed the search that you do, the more likely you're going to have direct interaction with someone who's never been approached before. Because bands in Romania do not get approached by people in the West offering them songs. It just, it's not how our industry's set up. That's the publishing side of things. Now, the reason I asked that question about, what are your purposes for the project and what have you, is whenever somebody approaches me about if I'm going to produce a project for them, whether it's a part of this process or just mixing it for them or, doing the whole thing lock, stock, and barrel from start to finish, knowing what you want to do with the music, having that usage purpose in mind, even if it's, you have to prioritize, is absolutely critical to keeping things on track, preventing it from becoming a big monster, with a million arms and untenable and all that kind of stuff. Hearing you describe these three different areas and what have you automatically tells me a few very, very specific things. It's like, if you're going to be performing these songs as an artist, as original compositions in front of live audiences, then I know that if nothing else, this project is most likely going to be on CD, because typically CDs are an impulse buy at live shows, particularly in our age bracket. I also know that it's got to represent you and what A, they're going to get if they come see you live, and B, what they heard when they saw you live, you know, if they want to buy it at a show. And it also tells me even things like, you know, where the vocal's going to sit in the mix relative to the track, you know, if it's a project with vocals in it, that kind of thing. And then I go down to the next level about film and TV and say, okay, I know we've got a varied degree of genres here that we need to work with. And therefore, I'm going to pull in or take out certain elements in each song that are for the film and TV music supervisors and music editors and people like that automatically fit in easily in the genre for them that they're looking for. I might not, you know, I might do an acoustic mix of one song that's electric on your CD, or vice versa. I'm trying to think, when I was at the Road Rally in 2019, I think that was the year that I taught the producing for multiple genres class. I took a song that we produced essentially with the same session, the same musicians, and the same, you know, basic elements, 3 different versions of the song. One acoustic, more, you know, East Nashville, Americana-oriented country, bluegrass leaning. One that was straight down the middle of the road commercial country, and one that was more rock oriented. And I showed how we did and didn't use certain elements in each arrangement and each mix. Therefore, even though we had exactly the same vocal on the song, and you know, so anyway, the point of that is, as a producer, that's what's going through my head when people start talking about multiple uses, and also multiple genres, and also multiple film and TV placements and things like that. So this kind of stuff really helps me kind of put my head around it. Nothing in the world better than hooking up with like-minded souls to you know, share this journey with. I can't remember if Nancy said in her response to you about the taxi forums.
Yeah,
and
she did, and you also did.
Oh, that's right. I mentioned the taxi rally friends group. Yeah,
And it's on my to-do list.
they're a fabulous bunch of folks. And one of the things I love about it is you've got the real heavy duty hitters in there, you know, who have gotten thousands of placements, have been taxi members for 15, 20 years. And ironically enough, those most successful people are the most active on the forums and in the groups. And they're very, very open about sharing and everything else. And there's even there's one forum on the taxi forums called Peer to Peer, where they will compare some songs that got submitted for a listing versus the ones that got forwarded. And you can hear directly where the disconnect might have been and what have you. And sometimes it comes down to the screener and other factors, but there's so much opportunity to share with people, you know, like-minded people who are more than willing to help. I mean, that whole kind of goodwill, for lack of a better term, is sort of a thread that runs through the entire taxi world, the entire taxi community. I mean, I've been working with them. I've gone to every single taxi road rally, including the virtual one, since 2004. And it's never not been that way. And that's all because of Michael Lasco. I mean, it all comes from the top.